Good day, everyone. Welcome to our live webinar, Modernizing Data to Innovate Businesses. Today, we are joined by industry leaders as we deep dive into understanding how to leverage analytics to meet modern business goals. We have two impressive speakers joining with us today, and I'm very excited to introduce them to you all. Joining with us today, first, we have Vishal Lada, Data and AI Solutions Architect at Just Analytics. And next in line, we have John Romeo, Digital Evangelist, Microsoft Cloud at TechOne Global. Hi, John, and hi, Vishal. Welcome you both to this live session today. How are you both doing?
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Great to have you both here today. Before we get started, I also like to mention that our audience can leave their questions in the Q&A section, and we will be addressing those questions towards the end of this session as well. So let's get started then. All right, so let me give you the first question to you both. What are the biggest differences between AI, BI, big data, and digital transformation? Maybe I will start with Vishal with this question.
Sure. So I think all of these four are distinct, but at the same time, there can be certain overlaps between a couple of them. Now, let me first start off with BI. BI is more about getting insights from your data. So you have some data set and then you want to analyze it, get answers to certain business questions from it. That is business intelligence. AI is where, as the name suggests, it's artificial intelligence, meaning to say where you mimic human thinking in some way or the other, or you repeat human thinking at a scalable level. Let me give you an example. Suppose a human eye is capable of looking at a piece of a product and figuring out what the defect is. Now, if you can teach the computer to do that, and if you can mimic that behavior of looking at something and visually detecting a defect, that is AI. If suppose you run machine learning to do sales forecasting. Now, suppose I tell you that last week my sales pattern for the 5 days was something like this: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now, you with your human brain would tell me that, OK, fine, then this week it will be 12. Why? Because you could figure out a pattern. But when the data becomes huge and there are so many different dimensions to data, then the same human thinking becomes, we don't have that scalability. But when we teach computer to do the same human thinking in a scalable fashion, that is AI. So AI is very diverse. Unlike BI at times, in AI, you have what we call the classical AI, which is simply forecasting or predicting the class of an object or clustering data, which is putting data into buckets. Then you have the modern cognitive AI, which is about your senses. For example, how do I use computer vision to do things that a human can do visually? Or how do I do things that a human can do with his ear, which is hear and translate, or hear and write it on a piece of paper, which is speech to text. So those are the two broad segments of AI today. So we covered BI, we covered AI. So BI is about getting insights from your data, descriptive. AI is very often about both descriptive as well as predictive, but where you're mimicking human behavior at scale, right? And then big data. Now, all of us are familiar with the 3 V's of data. In fact, nowadays we call it the 4 V's of data. We have volume, we have variety, we have velocity, and we have veracity. Let me just focus on the first three, the most popular ones. We all know that the volume of data is growing at a rate we have never seen before. In fact, I was reading some statistics. I think the data this generated this year, sorry, in 2020 was about 15 zettabytes, which is equivalent to the number of grains of sand that is there on Earth. I mean, the estimated number. So that's how fast data is growing. So that's the volume aspect. Now, the problem is this volume also has velocity. This volume also has velocity attached to it, which means the speed at which data is flowing has increased. For example, a lot of systems used to be batch in the past, but today a lot of them are real time. For example, if you are a mobile app, right, and you want to recommend something to a customer in his current visit, you need to get the insight in real time. So that's velocity. And third is variety. Earlier you just had structured data, but today we have unstructured data, we have semi-structured data. So big data is all about how do you bring all of this different, I mean, huge volume of data coming at different velocities, data of different variety. How do you bring them together on a big data platform so that you can transform them in order to utilize them in a scalable fashion for BI and AI? So very often big data, given the scale of data that we have today in the world, very often big data forms one of the foundations of both AI and BI. So that's AI, BI, and big data. And then digital transformation. Now, this is interesting because digital transformation is something which cuts across all three: AI, BI, and big data. Digital transformation essentially is about using technology. I'm giving you a very broad definition. Using technology in your business processes to either reduce friction, to increase the efficiency, or to just simplify them. Now, there are multiple ways of achieving this. That's where I said AI, BI, and big data, they all fit in certain parts of digital transformation. So digital transformation is a very broad way on how you digitalize processes to reduce friction and make them simple or more efficient. Now, it may include a bit of AI, it may include a bit of BI, it may need big data as a foundation as well. And it may include many other technologies such as low code apps, which I guess we can discuss more later. So this is what is AI, BI, big data, and digital transformation.
Great. Thank you, Vishal. John, do you have anything to add to this question?
I think Michelle has mentioned it all. It's really good and precise.
All right. Okay, right. Just like Vishal mentioned, being in digital transformation, using different technologies, we are just getting to the next question for this session. I think I'm going to direct this question at John to take over from here. Why is Azure the best platform for data analytics?
You know what, Rashida? One common area where Microsoft Azure can provide us the best options as a platform is through managing our data per organization. And there are lots of data to be managed, right? It could be in the healthcare industries, banking and finance, BPOs, manufacturing setups, and so on. And I think it could be harder for us to manage this data individually, right? Hence, the need for data analytics should be one consideration that we should always look into. Luckily, data analytics is available in Microsoft Azure. You might ask, Rashika, what is data analytics, right? Because somehow I think this will be uncommon to everyone. Data
Correct.
analytics is the process of examining raw data and to uncover trends and discover information to ask and answer questions related to organizational performance. In other words, Rashika, data analytics is one way for us to get a thorough look at the data, and that can lead us to a faster diagnosis and treatment plan. Let me try to give you an example. Working as a digital evangelist in my organization, or our organization rather, I was given the privilege to be assigned as a global administrator of our cloud infrastructure environment. And I am doing that by using the Azure Admin Center portal. Using the portal, I can oversee people with registered credentials who were allowed to access the range of applications and data within our organization using their compliant devices and registered locations. Thanks to Azure's data analytics Microsoft features, uh, through its descriptive and diagnostics capability, I was able to find the risks brought about by the failed sign-in attempts, invalid users' credentials, and restricted location access. And aside from these risks were automatically transformed into figures where it will signify a low security posture. And aside from that, its predictive and prescriptive capability taught me actions to take in order to minimize the effect of this risk in the future. And lastly, its cognitive capability allows me to monitor any inferences and patterns through audit logs among the user's recent, past, and present activity. That's it.
All right, thank you, John. Vishal, would you like to add anything to John's comment as well?
I think John really summarized it well. I would just like to add one word. I think the real value proposition of Azure can be summarized by just one word, and that one word is scalability. Now, when we talk about scalability, very often we think of just scaling up the infrastructure, but I'm talking about scalability in a broader sense. One is how do you scale up the infrastructure when needed and not scale it up when not needed, right? Because very often organizations don't get started on the analytics journey because they feel, oh, I'll have to invest so much, but maybe I don't need so much right now, right? But Azure really brings down the threshold of being able to start to zero. So you just pay for what you use and you can scale it up unlimitedly to whatever scale you want and then scale it down. That's number one aspect of scalability. The other aspect of scalability is scalability in terms of what all you can do on Azure. See, today in the world in the world where we are transforming digitally, technologies are changing every day. Yesterday, what I used for AI may not be used today. Technologies are changing, use cases are changing, and the amount of variety of use cases we want to achieve is also increasing. So Azure, in that sense, provides you a scalable platform which meets all your needs. You want to do BI? Okay, we have something. You want to do AI? We have something. You want to do big data? We have something. You want to do digital transformation? We have the Power Platform. You want to do something else? We have something. So it's a whole package. So you can scale in terms of infrastructure, you can scale in terms of use cases. And while scaling in both these dimensions, you pay for what you use, not pay for what you provision. So I think that's really the key value proposition that Azure brings, according to me.
Great. Thank you, Vishal and John, for sharing that insight with us. I'm sure with this current digital transformation and evolvement of different technologies coming and going, as you mentioned, what we used yesterday, we might not use it today. Let me quickly move into the third question for today's session. How can an organization get started on their data journey? Maybe John can get started on answering this question.
I think this one is a good question, Rashida. You know what? By this time, I think organizations should pay attention to the value of data analytics today. It works by finding correlations at the data to find new opportunities, identify weaknesses, and increase efficiency, and lastly is to improve customer satisfaction. Azure supports I think they can use Azure to be as an option to make the best out of it. Azure supports an advanced computing solutions like artificial intelligence and machine learning, wherein this empowers our developers and data scientists with a wide range of productive experiences, like in building, training, and deploying machine learning models faster. These two, the artificial intelligence and machine learning, were the foundations of Azure's data analytics in covering the all types, forms, and formats of data, including those big data or the ones that appear in large volumes. Well, whatever it may be, Azure supports broad range of technologies and solutions to provide us with data analytics services, such as Azure AD Synapse Analytics, Azure AD Insight, Azure Database, and Data Lake Analytics. Bottom line of this is that organization can start their data journey by allowing us or allowing Azure to be their guide.
Great. Vishal, would you like to add anything to it as well?
So I think just one thing that very often what we see with companies is that they say, oh, my scale is not that big for me to get started on my data journey. But the point is that it's not the scale that matters. What matters is what are the business questions that you want to get answered? What are the business problems you want to solve? And today, Azure provides you that platform where even if you have a small scale problem, you can still solve it without provisioning a big data warehouse, which in the past used to be the case that okay, if I want to data analytics, I need to provision these things, and even though my use case is not yet there, I pay for the whole thing. So I think that shift really makes it easy for organizations to start. So my point is that ask what are the top 3 business problems you want to solve, or what are the top 3 business questions you want to answer, and then just get started, because Azure provides something for all sorts of use cases.
Right. Just like you mentioned, it's not so complicated for an organization to get started with their data journey. It's all about what is inside or what is within the organization and how they can use it to accomplish their business goals. So if I may move to the next question, I may direct this to Vishal. Can you talk about some real examples of organizations that have utilized data analytics?
Okay, so see, there are plenty of examples on this. Maybe what would be helpful at this point would be maybe I can walk everyone through some sample AI use cases, some sample BI use cases, some sample digital transformation use cases. Does that help?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Maybe I can just share my slides.
Sure.
Let me know once you guys can see my screen. Okay, I think should be visible now. Yes. So see, for example, in our company, we do this. So we have an ERP system where we manage. Now, what I'm giving you right now is digital transformation use cases. In our company, we manage our projects through our ERP called Odoo. Now, there's a lot of friction at times in processes because people may not go and update certain task deadlines, etc., or deadlines may just go away and nobody chases, etc. So we've automated a lot of this using Power Automate, which is the automation tool of Microsoft, and we have provided the Teams interface to it so that people can actually interact with the chatbot to do a lot of these tasks. So if you want to create a task and assign to someone, just go to Teams and do it, and just use natural language. It's AI driven, so our chatbot understands what you mean. The chatbot even chases people that have you done this, it is due today. If you haven't done it, you must update the deadline, etc. So we've simplified that whole process. We have reduced that friction using a chatbot. The other example is, suppose you have a company which wants to monitor competitor prices, right? So that's where we have built this UI flow using Microsoft, where it basically scrapes the pricing of competitors every hour. And then we have a Power app where what you can do is you can actually create your own alerts. You can say that, okay, whenever the price of this particular product goes higher than this by any vendor, alert me. And you can even choose which channel you want to get alerted on. Do you want to get alerted via an email? Do you want to get alerted via Teams chat? Right? You can take actions from within this app to change your prices, etc. as well. The other interesting one is equipment request. Now, suppose there's certain equipments you want to request. So this app basically allows you to make that request. The request goes to your approving authority via this email, and then they click approve in the email. It gets approved. Everything gets reflected back in the application. Now, what happens further is once it is approved, it automatically generates a PO, product order, in your template like it does here in our Just Analytics template, and it shoots it out to the vendor which has been selected in the system. The vendor gets an email with what we call an adaptive card where they can indicate their estimated shipping date and they submit it right from the email. You don't have to go to any application. And that gets reflected back into your application. So you see what we did here, we stitched the entire process in a single flow. Similarly, we have automated invoice processing. So now, for example, in our company, we used to get, I mean, we still do get a lot of invoices, etc. And our HR used to spend a lot of time. What we did is we use something called SharePoint Syntax, which basically is a document classification mechanism, which classifies all of these invoices, etc. into different types. After that, using AI, it extracts the fields from these and sends it to the finance person to approve or reject along with the document, so that just in case they want to look at the document, they can still look at it. They approve it, go straight to the ERP. So instead of a guy opening the emails, going through them sequentially, validating, opening and checking values, etc., we've automated that process. It reduces the pain by like 70%. Sales lead chatbot. So for example, in our company, we have salespeople who, sometimes salespeople, they go selling, and they think I'll create the leads in the ERP at the end of the week. And what happens is sometimes certain leads may slip away. Or what may happen is they may update it very late. So the people managing don't really have a real time or a near real time view of it. That's where, I mean, this is the problem we face in our organization, and we saw many other salespeople facing this. That's why we created this chatbot, which is integrated with our ERP. And the sales guy, when he meets the customer, he just needs to go to the chatbot, just select the customer or create a new customer, maybe create the lead, write all his notes, whatever here. He can even create tasks to follow up for different people. And he can even set reminders for himself that, OK, remind me about this after a week. And it is all going back to the ERP. So reducing friction. Expense processing app. Our HR used to spend a lot of time processing all the expenses, all the receipts we give, to check whether it's a taxi receipt or not, to check whether it was taken at the right time or not, etc. That's where we have built an application which has automated the process. Almost 80% of our receipts today are automatically validated. Only 20% HR just needs to double check and look at them. So this is what essentially digital transformation is. Now, one thing you would have realized when I walked through all these use cases was that there's a lot of diversity in digital transformation, and you have AI and BI as enablers. For example, in this one, we're using computer vision. So AI is acting as an enabler of digital transformation. For example, let's take this one. Actually, in this one, you also have a dashboard of pricing. Now here, BI becomes an enabler of digital transformation. So you see, digital transformation is very broad. AI, BI, big data are some of the enablers, but they can be more enablers, like low code apps. For example, this is built using Power App. We could build an app like this within a span of 2 weeks. A fully functioning app, people can download it on their mobile and start using. So these are enablers. Now, very quickly, I'll give you some samples of AI use cases. Predictive maintenance. We did this for Singtel. So Singtel had these commercial routers which would fail very rarely, but when they would fail, they would cost them really heavy, both in terms of reputation and monetary. Now, these routers are not the routers you and I use in our homes. They may fail a couple of times in a month, but these were like commercial routers. Now, The challenge in this whole problem was that the failures were very rare, which means we had little data of what we wanted to predict. But that's why we used predictive maintenance, and we really predicted, I think, more than 50% of their faults in advance, and they could actually act on it. So that's predictive maintenance, predicting the need of maintenance in advance. Market basket analysis. Now, all of us are familiar with 7-Eleven cold storage, right? Now, the parent company of all of them is Dairy Farm. We did market basket analysis for them where we built a system which tells them that, okay, bananas and apples sell together. Someone who buys banana is very likely to buy apples, right? So this helps them formulate their offers, formulate how they want to bundle products, formulate how they want to place the products in specific stores together. Sales forecasting, the most common of all. I don't think any decent business runs without some form of sales forecasting. Now, all of you are familiar with Four Fingers Chicken. We built a sales forecasting model for them. Defect detection, again, this is what I started off with, right? That human eyes are capable of looking at faults in machinery, but putting humans to do this analysis for thousands of devices in a short span, or same device for 24 hours, the cost is higher. How do you save costs? If I can get a machine to emulate human behavior, that's AI. That's defect detection. We did this for ST Aerospace. Again, sales forecasting, and several other use cases, which I can walk you through in case there's more time. The other one, so we covered digital transformation and AI. Let's quickly look at some BI use cases. So as I told you, BI is about getting insights from your data. So for example, sales analytics, figuring out which territories are working well, which territories are not. Sorry, I think I need to share the other one. Let me share my other screen. Okay. So here in sales analytics, I'm trying to know which of my territories are working well, which of my salespeople are performing well. It's descriptive. What is it now? How do I slice and dice the data that is there right now to generate insights from it? So for example, primary sales, secondary sales, sales forecasting. Now this is something which is I mean, where we use AI to forecast, but we use BI to visualize in the same dashboard. Financial analytics, general ledger, accounts receivable, how much money am I supposed to receive in next month, 1 month, accounts payable, how much am I supposed to pay in next couple of months. Procurement analytics, how much do I need to procure, how much has been procured, how much is payables, which are the top performing suppliers, etc. So this is basically business intelligence, BI. So I think that would have given a glimpse of what really other types of use cases we can accomplish.
Yes. Thank you for those insights you shared with us, Vishal. I mean, it's amazing to see how technology is doing what humans can do and more effectively and cost effectively as well. It's pretty amazing to see this, and how organizations and well-known organizations across regions using these technologies to maximize their business goals. Since we are on the same topic, let me just move on to the next question quickly, and I'm planning to direct this to you, Vishal, as well. Can you show us samples of a data analytics roadmap with us?
Sure, I can show you a sample later, but before we get into that, one thing I want to highlight here is that the data analytics roadmap for every company is generally different. and it is based on the problems they want to address, based on the questions that they want to answer, and based on the data that is available to them. So that is something that is very critical to understand, because the same size doesn't fit all. That's one. The second thing is the data analytics roadmap is something where you also have to take into account not just the technology that you want to build, but you also want to take into account how do you make your employees effectively use it. So the data analytics roadmap is not just shouldn't just be a technical roadmap, but also an adoption roadmap. How do you plan to make them adopt? How do you plan to skill your people up so that the systems that are built are actually effective because people are using them, right? So these are the two aspects that I would say companies should take into account. Now let me share with you guys one sample roadmap of maybe a retail scenario. So this is a sort of a roadmap that we built for a retail company. Now this was based on what was relevant for their situation, their business challenges, the questions they had. So first stage that we told them they should start with was descriptive and diagnostic analysis. When we say descriptive and diagnostic, how are they different? Diagnostic is about diagnosing certain issues, whereas descriptive is just about describing. Now, diagnostic is a subset of descriptive. So for example, sales performance, inventory stock, purchasing analytics, cross-selling by time, region, etc. People counting, financial analytics, how much accounts receivable, just the exact same thing that I showed you for BI. That's level 1. Then the level 2 becomes predictive analytics, where you forecast for the future, where you forecast the stock movement, the demand forecasting, where you forecast certain customers who may become dormant or may churn. That's predictive analytics. And then the final level that we recommended to them was customer segmentation and personalization. How do you deliver personalized customer experience across different channels? That's the highest level that we recommended for them. So this is what we shared with one of the retail customers, but I think depending on the scenario of the company, resources, challenges, it will vary. And we're happy to help out if any of you are interested.
Great. I think before we wrap up, we are going to open the lines to a few Q&A sessions as well. Yep. Let me quickly see the questions published here. Okay. I am actually going to throw the first question at both Vishal and John as well. So the first question is, can you give an example of a good data analytics strategy? I think maybe Vishal can get started with it.
So the question is a bit broad because there are different aspects of strategy. One is the technical strategy of how you should sequence different types of data analytics. The second would be skilling up, right? So to be honest, it really depends on the customer scenarios, but let me give you two different scenarios so that you can see the contrast. Let's say there's a company. Let me share a use case of a customer. Now this customer was an energy company where they basically were resellers of electricity. Now the problem is they would forecast, but then the forecasting, if it was inaccurate on either side, would cost them a lot. And the reason was that because when they purchase this electricity, they cannot hold on to it. They have to sell into the market. So, and if suppose the customer needs more electricity, they have to buy in real time from the market. So think about this. If they forecast more, then what is actually needed by their customers, they have to sell it immediately in the market. If they forecast lower than what is needed by their customers, then they have to buy it from the market at whatever the market price is. But this was a costly affair because sometimes because of demand and supply, the cost of buying it from the market would be very erratic. So for a company like this, you wouldn't recommend going for BI first. The first biggest low hanging fruit that can drive value for them would be AI. So attack that high value item first, and we basically built a sales forecasting model which helped them. Now this is one scenario. Now let me take you to another scenario where what we faced was that the customer, one of the major challenges was the customer was losing out on a lot of customer uh, queries. And that was because they couldn't afford to scale up the level of customer care and the number of customer care executives to the level of what would be sufficient for catering to their customers, because there are a really large number of customers. Now that's where you wouldn't go and say, oh, let's do sales forecasting. No, their low hanging fruit is how do I solve the problem of bridging the gap between queries and query solvers. That's where we built a chatbot which answered most of the queries, the 80-20 rule, right? The Pareto principle. Your 80% queries stem from 20% scenarios. So we built those 20% scenarios and it addressed the 80% of their queries, and it led to a significant increase in the customer satisfaction. Now, based on these two examples, what I want to bring home, the take-home message here is that there's no best strategy at all. The best strategy doesn't exist. The universal best strategy doesn't exist. The best strategy is that which addresses your company's low-hanging fruit first. That's the best strategy.
Great. Thank you for sharing that lovely insight with us, Vishal. I think it's pretty clear to us that before we get into these strategies, we also need to understand what is available within us and how to address certain situations as well. John, would you like to address this question? Do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, I think Vishal has mentioned it all, but I just want to add that a good data analytics does not end by knowing the strengths and weaknesses of your organization. It will also help you sustain the process of your organization as well, to be consistent.
Great. I think consistency is also another key to get that best strategy in place for your organization. There is another question available in the Q&A section. Let me quickly throw this at you as well. What are the top benefits of data analytics? Is it so critical for a day-to-day operations? I think this is a two-part question. Let me get started with Vishal.
So data analytics it's very essential for any organization, and it's going to become more and more essential going forward. Now, the different aspects of data analytics may be more or less critical based on your needs. But going forward for any organization, things like forecasting their sales, forecasting their inventory needs, etc., would be critical to operate in an optimal manner.
Great. John, would you like to address this question as well?
I think I have nothing to add, Rashia.
Okay, great. I think that's pretty much all the questions we have for today for you. Thank you very much for sharing those wonderful insights with us. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for the day. But before we go, we have a very exciting offer for you as well. To get yourself or get your organization started with its data journey, you can simply fix a consultation with us, a free consultation with us. Just drop us an email to aliana@techoneglobal.com. If you need to or want to learn more details related to this consultation offer. And let me just thank Vishal and John. Thank you both for joining with us today and sharing these wonderful insights with our attendees. And let me also thank the audience for tuning in as well and joining this interactive session. And I hope you were able to learn quite new things from both our speakers. Um, I hope you enjoyed this talk and we look forward to seeing you soon in the next one. Have a good day.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Guys.